"Ma'am, you need to see this." The teller's voice came out quiet, almost unsteady. She had stopped looking at me altogether, her eyes fixed on the screen in front of her, fingers hovering above the keyboard like she had just come across something she wasn't supposed to. I remember the low hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, the soft chatter of customers in the background, the faint scent of paper and polished wood counters, and suddenly the entire atmosphere shifted. "What is it?" I asked. She swallowed, then angled the monitor slightly back toward herself, as if even letting me see it might cross some invisible line. I need to get my manager." That was the exact moment I understood. Whatever my grandfather had placed in my hands on my wedding day, it wasn't just an old, forgotten savings book. It was something far beyond that. For as long as I could remember, my grandfather had been a quiet veteran. That was the only way I ever knew him. Quiet, distant, the kind of man who sat in the same worn chair every day, staring out the window like he was watching something no one else could see. He lived alone in a small house just outside town, white paint chipping away, the porch sagging slightly to one side, the kind of place people passed without a second glance. No one in my family ever spoke about why. Not my father, not my mother, not even during holidays when families are supposed to share stories and fill in the gaps. With him, there were only gaps. When I was younger, I used to ask, "Why doesn't he come over?" I would say. My father would shrug, eyes still on the television. "He likes being alone." My mother would always change the subject. Eventually, I stopped asking. In my family, silence wasn't unusual, it was expected. The last time I saw him before my wedding, he didn't say much. That wasn't anything new. I had driven out to his place alone that afternoon. The light was soft, golden, the kind that makes everything look gentler than it really is. He opened the door slowly, like he had nowhere else to be. "You came," he said, not surprised, just stating it. "I wanted to invite you," I told him, "to the wedding." He gave a small nod and stepped aside so I could enter. The house smelled faintly of coffee and old wood. Everything inside was clean but worn with age, like it had been cared for but never replaced. We sat at the small kitchen table. I talked most of the time about the wedding, the guests, the venue, the flowers my mother insisted on choosing. He listened carefully, really listened, his eyes steady, hands resting together. When he finished, he reached into a drawer beside him and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was the savings book, old and frayed, the edges softened from years of use. "For you," he said. I hesitated. "Grandpa, you don't have to—" "It's not much," he said gently, cutting me off. I took it anyway, not because I thought it held value, but because it came from him, and that meant something, even if I didn't understand what. On my wedding day, everything moved too quickly. People everywhere, music filling the air, laughter echoing in every corner, leaving no room for quiet thoughts. My parents were busy, smiling, greeting guests, making sure everything looked perfect. I didn't notice when my grandfather arrived. Not at first. It was my cousin who pointed him out. "He's here," she whispered. I turned and saw him standing near the back, wearing the same dark suit I remembered, slightly too large on him now. His hands were clasped in front of him. He didn't step forward, didn't try to blend in. He just stood there, watching. I walked over. "I'm glad you came," I said. He nodded once, then, without saying anything, he placed the same savings book back into my hands. "I already have this," I said, confused. "This time," he replied quietly, "keep it with you." Before I could ask anything else, someone called my name. Photos, speeches, toasts. The day carried me away. It wasn't until later, after the ceremony, when the reception had started, that everything changed. I was in a back room with my parents when my mother noticed the book in my hand. "What's that?" she asked. "It's Grandpa gave it to me." She took it from me before I could say anything more, looked at it briefly, then handed it to my father. He barely glanced at it before tossing it straight into the trash. Just like that. No hesitation, no discussion. I stood there, stunned. "Why would you do that?" I asked. My mother sighed, already turning away. "It's nothing, just something old he's been holding on to." "It's from him," I said.
My father shook his head. "You don't know him like we do." That was it. No explanation, no story, just the same wall of silence I had grown up with. Later that night, when everything had quieted down, I went back. The trash bag was still there, half filled with paper plates, napkins, ribbons, and somewhere inside, that book. I don't know why I did it. Maybe it was the way he looked when he handed it to me. Maybe it was how easily my parents dismissed it. Or maybe I was just tired of not knowing. I reached in, pulled it out, wiped it clean as best as I could, and held it again. It felt heavier this time. Not physically, but in a way I couldn't explain. The next morning, I drove to the bank. A small branch downtown, the kind that still had real people behind the counters. I waited in line, the book tucked under my arm. When my turn came, I slid it across the counter. "Can you tell me what this is?" I asked. The teller, young and polite, opened it casually. At first, nothing seemed different. Then she paused. Her eyes scanned the page again, slower this time. She typed something into her computer, glanced back at the book, then at the screen. Her expression shifted, slightly at first, then completely. Her posture straightened, her fingers stopped moving. And that's when she said it. "Ma'am, you need to see this." I didn't realize it yet, but that moment, that quiet, ordinary moment inside a small-town bank, was the beginning of everything. Everything my family had hidden, everything my grandfather had carried in silence, and everything I was about to uncover. The bank manager didn't smile when he approached. That was the first thing I noticed. In places like this, people usually smiled. They knew your name, asked about your family, made small talk about the weather. But this man, mid-50s, neatly dressed, silver hair combed back, walked toward us with a seriousness that didn't belong here. "Ma'am," he said politely, "would you mind stepping into my office?" I glanced at the teller. She avoided my eyes. Something tightened in my chest. "Is something wrong?" I asked. He hesitated briefly. "I think it's better if we discuss this in private." His office was small. A desk, 2 chairs, a framed certificate on the wall. Nothing unusual, but the air felt heavy. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit. I placed the savings book on his desk. He didn't touch it right away, just looked at it like it was something fragile or dangerous. "How did you come into possession of this?" he asked. "My grandfather gave it to me. Yesterday." I nodded. "And his name?" I told him. Something shifted, not dramatically, but enough. Recognition, respect, maybe disbelief. He sat down and finally opened the book again. "This account," he said carefully, "has been inactive for a long time." "How long?" He glanced at the screen. "Decades." My heart skipped. "Is there money in it?" He looked at me, not confused, not sympathetic, but something else entirely. "Yes." I swallowed. "How much?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned the monitor toward me. I leaned forward. At first, the numbers didn't make sense. Too many digits, too many zeros. I blinked, looked again, and that's when it hit me. This wasn't just savings. This wasn't something small tucked away. This was life-changing. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Neither do I, not completely." He explained the account had been opened under my grandfather's name many years ago. Large deposits had been made over time. Then nothing. No withdrawals, no activity. Just sitting there, growing. "For someone living the way you described, this doesn't make sense." "No," I said quietly, "it doesn't." On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. Everything I thought I knew about my grandfather didn't fit anymore. I didn't go home. I drove straight to his house. The same road, the same peeling paint, the same sagging porch. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. He opened the door before I knocked. "You went to the bank," he said. I nodded. "Can I come in?" We sat at the same kitchen table, the book between us. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I asked. He poured coffee before answering. "I didn't think it mattered." "It does," I said. "There's a lot of money in that account." "I know." "You know?" I stared at him. "Then why live like this?" He looked at me calmly. I was never struggling. That answer stayed with me long after I left. At home, my parents were in the living room, my mother scrolling through photos, my father watching TV. "Where have you been?" she asked. "The bank." That got their attention. "Why?" my father asked. I held up the book. "Because of this. There's money in it, a lot." Silence filled the room. "That's not possible," my mother said. "It is." My father stood. "Let me see." This time he looked carefully, really looked, then sat down slowly. "He didn't earn that," he said. "What does that mean?" I asked. He looked at me differently than ever before, something close to guilt. "You don't know who he was," he said. "No," I replied, "because no one ever told me." The room felt tight, like something buried was rising. "This isn't something to dig into," my mother said quickly. "What choices?" I pressed. She won't answer, I realized. "He wasn't the man you think he is," my father said. That's when I understood. This wasn't about money. "Then tell me who he is," I said. He hesitated, then shook his head. "No." That one word changed something in me. "All my life," I said slowly, "you've told me nothing." "Sweetheart." "No," I said, "not this time." I looked at my father. You don't get to throw his life away and then refuse to explain it. For a moment, I thought he might tell the truth. Instead, he said, "If you keep digging, you might not like what you find." I held his gaze. "Then I'll find out myself." That night, I couldn't sleep. The numbers, my grandfather's calm voice, my father's warning. One thought stayed clear.
For 50 years, my grandfather had lived in silence. And whatever the truth was, it had been buried just as long. I wasn't afraid of it, but something told me I should be. I didn't return to the bank the next day right away. I sat at my kitchen table, staring at the worn savings book, a cup of coffee gone cold beside me. By mid-morning, I couldn't sit still anymore. When I went back, the teller recognized me. "He's waiting for you," she said. The manager didn't waste time. "There's something I didn't tell you," he said. "There were deposits, large ones, over time. Clearance level," he added. My stomach tightened. "There's no clear source," he said, "and there's more." He handed me a document, old, signed by my grandfather. The funds weren't to be accessed until passed on. "To who?" I asked. He looked at me. "You." Decades. Waiting. Planned. On the drive back, I went straight to my grandfather's house. "You knew," I said. "I knew. Then why not tell me? Would it have changed anything?" "Yes." "No," he said quietly. "It wouldn't have." "That money," he said, "was never the important part." "Then what was?" "The reason it exists." A chill ran through me. "Some things were never meant to be talked about," he said. "That's not enough," I replied. "Once you start," he said, "you won't be able to stop." "I'm not afraid." "Maybe you should be." As I left, he said one more thing. "Look for Carter." That name stayed with me. The next day, I searched. Thomas Carter. 2 hours away. I drove. When he opened the door, everything changed. "You'd better come in," he said. Inside, I told him everything. He listened, then said, "You really don't know." "No." He sighed. "Your grandfather was one of the best men I ever served with." That wasn't what I expected. "He saved lives," Carter said. "But that's not what people remember." "What do they remember?" I asked. He looked at me. "A mission that went wrong. Men dead. My grandfather blamed." "And your grandfather?" "They said it was his fault." No, I said. I didn't say it was true, Carter replied. They needed someone to blame. And he took it. Why? Because the truth would have destroyed someone else. Silence filled the room. He let everyone believe it, I said. Carter nodded. He walked away from everything. My father believed it. Yes. That's why no one talked about it. Yes. He paid for it, Carter said quietly. And the money? I asked. Carter leaned forward slightly. That wasn't a reward, he said. It was a settlement for the truth that no one was allowed to tell. A chill ran through me. The truth hidden, buried, paid for, and my grandfather had carried it alone for 50 years. I sat there in silence, the weight of it pressing down on me. This isn't over, is it? I asked quietly. Carter didn't hesitate. No, he said. I felt it then, clear, sharp, unavoidable. This wasn't just a story about the past. It was something still alive, still unresolved, and now I was part of it. I didn't say much on the drive home, not because I didn't have questions, but because I had too many. They crowded my thoughts, overlapping, repeating until none of them made sense on their own anymore. A mission, men dead, my grandfather blamed, a truth buried so deeply that even time hadn't been allowed to touch it, and a settlement, money paid not for what was known, but for what wasn't. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't sit on this anymore. Not after what Carter had told me, not after 50 years of silence. My parents were in the kitchen when I walked in, my mother at the sink, my father at the table, the same picture I had seen my entire life, comfortable, ordinary, untouched. But something in me had changed. We need to talk, I said. My voice was calm, too calm. My father looked up first, then my mother. They saw it immediately. Something was different. What is it? My mother asked. I set the savings book down on the table, between us. I went to see Carter, I said. That name, it hit them harder than anything else I had said so far. My father's expression froze. My mother turned slowly. Where did you hear that name? My father asked. His voice was low, tight. From Grandpa, I said. Silence.
You weren't supposed to, my mother started. I wasn't supposed to what? I interrupted. Ask questions? Find out the truth? My father stood up slowly. You don't understand what you're getting into, he said. No, I replied. I didn't. I took a step forward. But I do now. They didn't speak, so I did. There was a mission, I said. Something went wrong. My father's jaw tightened. Men died, I continued. My mother closed her eyes and Grandpa took the blame. That was the moment everything broke. My father turned away, ran a hand through his hair like he had been carrying something heavy for far too long. He should have told the truth, he said. I stared at him. He could have cleared his name, my father went on. He chose not to, because it would have hurt someone else, I said. That stopped him. Slowly, he turned back. Carter told you that? He asked. I nodded. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my mother said something I didn't expect. He ruined this family. I felt it immediately, that sharp, rising anger. No, I said, you don't get to say that. He disappeared, she shot back. He shut us out. He let people believe. He sacrificed everything, I cut in. My voice was louder now, stronger. For someone else, I said. For people he served with. For something bigger than himself. That's not how it felt growing up, my mother said quietly. That stopped me. She looked at me then. Not defensive, not angry, just tired. You didn't have to explain to your friends why your father wasn't around, she said. You didn't have to hear what people said about him. I hesitated. You didn't have to grow up thinking your own father chose strangers over his family. The room went still. For the first time, I saw it, not just my grandfather's silence, but theirs. It wasn't just anger, it was hurt. He was protecting someone, I said, softer now. And who protected us? My father asked. That question lingered, heavy, unanswered, but it didn't change the truth. There's more, I said. They both looked at me. The money, I continued, it wasn't just savings. My father frowned. It was a settlement, I said. For what? My mother asked. I held their gaze. For the truth that no one was allowed to tell. Silence. Deep. Uncomfortable. My father sat down slowly. So they knew, he murmured. They knew what? I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the book, then at me. There was an investigation, he said, finally. My heart skipped. After the mission, he continued, some people questioned what really happened. And? I pressed. And it was shut down. Why? He hesitated, then said something that changed everything. Because the truth would have exposed a mistake higher up. The air left my lungs. Someone in command? I asked. He nodded. They gave the order, he said. A bad one. And Grandpa took the fall, I said. Yes. The room felt like it was closing in. All this time? I whispered. My father nodded slowly. He knew, he said. He always knew. Then why didn't you ever tell me? I asked. He looked at me, and this time there was no anger, no defense, just regret. Because I believed it, he said. That hurt more than anything else. For years, he continued, I thought he chose that path. He swallowed, and by the time I realized, I didn't know how to fix it. I felt something shift inside me. The anger didn't disappear, but it changed. It wasn't just about blame anymore. It was about time, lost time. You still can, I said quietly. He looked at me. How? He asked. I thought about my grandfather sitting alone for decades. You start by going to see him, I said. My mother hesitated. He won't want to see us, she said. I shook my head. He never stopped wanting to, I replied. That was the truth. I could feel it. The room fell silent again, but this time it felt different, not like something was ending, like something was about to begin. We didn't go that same day. That surprised me. After everything that had come out, the truth, the regret, the years of silence finally breaking, I thought we would get in the car immediately and drive out to my grandfather's house, but we didn't. Instead, we sat at the same kitchen table, three people who had lived under the same roof for decades and somehow never really understood each other. My father didn't speak for a long time. He just stared at his hands like he was trying to remember something, or maybe forget it. I don't know what to say to him, he admitted finally. His voice was quieter than I had ever heard him. You don't have to say everything, I replied. Just say something. My mother sat beside him, still uncertain. What if he doesn't forgive us? She asked. That question hung in the air, fragile, real. I thought about my grandfather, the way he had looked at me, the way he had spoken, the way he had lived. He already has, I said softly. They both looked at me. He never blamed you, I continued, not once. That seemed to affect my father more than anything else. He let out a slow breath. That almost makes it worse, he said. I understood what he meant, because when someone holds on to anger, at least there's something to push against. But when they don't, you're left alone with your own. We'll go tomorrow, my father said, and this time I believed him. The next morning was quiet, not tense, not uncomfortable, just quiet. We drove together, the same road I had taken so many times before, but it felt different now. Not like a place we were avoiding, but like somewhere we should have gone a long time ago. No one spoke much during the drive. There wasn't a need to. Everything that mattered had already been said. When we pulled into the driveway, I noticed something I hadn't before. The porch had been repaired just slightly. A new plank where the wood had once sagged, small but meaningful. My father noticed it too. I saw it in the way he paused just for a second. Then he got out of the car. We walked up together, all three of us, slowly. And for the first time in my life, it felt like we were walking towards something, not away from it. My father knocked. It took a moment. Then the door opened. My grandfather stood there, same as always, calm, steady. His eyes moved from me to my mother to my father. He didn't look surprised. "You came?" he said. My father nodded. "Yes," he replied. That was it. At first, just that one word, but it was enough. We stepped inside. The house hadn't changed, not really. Still clean, still quiet, still filled with that same sense of time standing still. But something in the room felt different. Maybe it was us. We sat at the kitchen table again, the same one I had sat at just days before. No one spoke right away. Then my father cleared his throat. "I should have come sooner," he said. My grandfather didn't respond, just listened. "I believed things," my father continued, "things I didn't understand." He paused, searching for the right words. "I thought you chose to leave us," he said. My grandfather looked at him, not with anger, not with disappointment, just with understanding. "I chose to protect people," he said quietly. My father nodded. "I know that now." Silence settled between them. Then my father said something I never thought I would hear. "I'm sorry." Simple, honest, late but real. My grandfather studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "That's enough," he said. That was it. No lecture, no long speech, no reopening of old wounds. Just enough. My mother spoke next, her voice softer than I had ever heard it. "We should have asked questions," she said. My grandfather looked at her. "You were young," he replied. "That's not an excuse," she said. "No," he agreed, "but it's a reason." That seemed to ease something in her. Not completely, but enough. We sat there for a while longer, talking, not about the past, not about the mission, not about the years that had been lost, but about simple things, the house, the garden, the weather. It felt strange at first, almost too normal, but then I realized something. This was what had been missing all along. Not explanations, not details, connection. Before we left, my grandfather stood up slowly, walked over to a small cabinet, opened it. He pulled something out, a folded flag, carefully preserved. He held it for a moment, then handed it to my father. "For the years you didn't see," he said. My father took it with both hands, like it mattered, because now it did. As we walked back to the car, I looked at my grandfather one last time. He stood on the porch, watching us, not alone anymore, and for the first time in my life, I understood him. Not completely, maybe not even enough, but more than before, and sometimes that's where healing begins. A week later, we went back. This time, it wasn't out of obligation. It wasn't driven by questions or guilt or the weight of something unresolved. It was different. It was intentional. My father brought tools, my mother brought food, and I brought something else, the savings book. The three of us stood in the driveway for a moment before getting out. No one said it out loud, but we all felt it. This wasn't just another visit. It was a beginning. My grandfather opened the door before we knocked again, like he always knew. "You back," he said. My father smiled. Not a big smile, not forced, just real. "We brought lunch," my mother added. My grandfather stepped aside. Inside, the house felt warmer. Not physically, but in a way that's harder to explain. We didn't sit at the table right away. My father walked outside toward the porch, started fixing a loose railing. No announcement, no explanation, just doing something that should have been done a long time ago. My grandfather watched him through the window, didn't say anything, but I saw it. That small shift in his expression. Pride. Inside, my mother moved around the kitchen like she had been there before, like it wasn't unfamiliar anymore, and I sat across from my grandfather again, the savings book between us. "I know what it is now," I said. He nodded. "And what it meant," I added. He looked at me, waiting. "They tried to close the truth," I said, "but they couldn't erase it." He studied me for a long moment. "No," he said quietly, "they couldn't." I slid the book toward him. "This belongs to you," I said. He shook his head. "No," he replied. "It belongs to you now." "I didn't earn it." "That's not what it's for." I hesitated. "Then what is it for?" I asked. He leaned back slightly, the chair creaking softly beneath him. "It's a reminder," he said. "Of what?" "That truth doesn't always come when it should," he answered, "but it comes." I sat with that, letting it settle. "And what you do with it," he continued, "matters." I nodded slowly. Outside, I could hear my father working, the steady rhythm of a hammer. Simple, honest. For years, I had thought revenge meant something loud, something dramatic, something that hurt the people who hurt you. But sitting there, I realized something different. The truth had already done the work. It had exposed the silence, the misunderstanding, the years of distance, and it hadn't destroyed us. It had given us a chance to rebuild. Later that afternoon, we all sat on the porch together. The sun was lower in the sky, casting that same soft golden light I remembered from before, but it didn't feel distant anymore. It felt shared. My father handed the folded flag back to my grandfather. "I think this should stay here," he said. My grandfather looked at it, then at him. "Are you sure?" he asked. My father nodded. "I know what it means now," he said. That was enough. My grandfather placed it carefully on the table beside him. No ceremony, no speeches, just understanding. Before we left, I stood beside him for a moment. "Why me?" I asked. He looked at me. "For what?" "The account," I said. "The truth." He smiled faintly. "Because you came," he answered. That simple. Not because I deserved it, not because I was special, but because I showed up. That stayed with me, because so many things in life come down to that, showing up, asking, listening, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's late, especially when it's late. As we drove away, I looked back one last time. My grandfather stood on the porch, not as a man forgotten, not as a man misunderstood, but as someone finally seen. And I realized something I wish I had understood sooner. We don't always get the full story, not about our parents, not about our grandparents, not even about ourselves. But that doesn't mean the story isn't there. It just means sometimes we have to be the ones willing to find it. If there's someone in your life you've stopped asking about, someone you've quietly judged without knowing the full truth, maybe it's not too late. Maybe all it takes is one conversation. And if this story meant something to you, if it reminded you of someone, take a moment, reach out, listen, because some truths wait a lifetime to be heard, and when they finally are, they can change everything.